what is the one major barrier that your company has faced as a services provider in trying to move essential goods, medical supplies, and equipment within the Asia Pacific region? And if you had it to give to APEC officials and governments on how they could better serve your company's ability to meet the overwhelming needs of the COVID or any pandemic, what one or two top policies would you recommend they adopt? So major barrier and top policy, and presumably maybe these are linked.
So should I start, Sherry?
Yes, please do.
This is Doris. I thought it was great that Fatima's recommendations are exactly the same as our shipping one. Actually, we're almost side by side. So the airline and seafaring personnel really face the same issues. I mentioned in my presentation that we always look at the airline people go through the line really fast, and we were hoping the seafarers are always at the back. And maybe if there was one systemic change that could happen is that both airline and seafaring personnel are viewed as essential workers that need to be protected. They have to be in a bubble. They have to be able to get through the line, not stand in line with 1,000 people. They cannot be subjected to any risk of their health, and they should just get to where they're going. And I think that should even go beyond, it should be a policy that goes beyond the pandemic in the new normal.
Great, thank you so much. That was very clear. Leonora, would you like to go next, or Fatima?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, so it's a good question, because I think this pandemic caught everyone by surprise, right? And now we have the benefit of hindsight. One of the message in my presentation was about being prepared, the preparedness. So, to have the planning as well. So I think what governments, public institutions can do is actually, like what Doris and Fatima had also alluded, is to, have the right classification and allowance for essential services, to go cross-border. And in fact, also accelerating approvals, for example, the drugs for emergency use, and even during importation, right? Green channels for custom clearance of certain essential items. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Fatima?
Sure, yeah. Just complimenting what Leonora and Doris have said. I thought Leonora's presentation just perfectly illustrated the criticality of the services that we in the transportation logistics industry provide. And Doris, fully agree with her points regarding, crew treatment and how this needs to be something that becomes institutionalized, if you will, moving forward. COVID is one thing, but other types of disruptions could happen in future. And I think there are a lot of learnings that we can use from this experience. Just remembering that, like in shipping, air cargo crew, that they pose a very different risk profile, and so it's important to protect them. There's a very human element to all of this, and yes, some restrictions are in place to protect them and protect communities, but it's very difficult, I think, to be doing the jobs that these people are doing, and to it's anyway, just to remember the human element of this. And so if protocols can be put in place that, yes, are protective, but also make life a bit more comfortable for these service providers, I think that would be very valuable indeed. So yeah, that's it from me.
Okay, thank you. Well, what I'm hearing from everybody is that it would be useful for governments to work on developing some type of standardized regulatory procedures or protocols, which would help with ensuring that logistically goods can move in and out of different countries and different territories in the same manner, so they don't have to face different procedures in each location. And then also that protocols are developed for similar treatment of crews, whether they be seafarers or air transport crews, and that there be a human element introduced into these development of these regulatory protocols. Would you say that if such protocols were developed, would this be one of the major barriers that would assist in moving essential goods and the type of health products that Leonora has mentioned across borders?
Well,
Or is there another type of policy you would also recommend? Doris.
Well, I just think, first of all, the human element is the one that causes the stoppage. So for example, the reason why a lot of ships, the freight today, the reason there's such a shortage of capacity to carry this new demand that's emerging post, sort of as the emergence of new COVID restrictions are opening up. The shortages of people, not just in a port, but it's the truck driver that brings it forward on. It's the one that the customs guy who has to be there. So all these elements of the human element is vital, because and when ships cannot discharge, cannot change crew in China, let's say, and has to divert to the Philippines, you've lost a whole week of capacity. And all these are not only capacity issues, but also cost issues that are adding to the cost for the consumer. Or for example, between if a ship goes between China and India, the ship has to be at sea for 14 days quarantine before it can get to the other side. So the element of the human aspect is vital because it affects many, many things. It's much more complex than just changing the crew. It's also adding to cost, it's adding to capacity change, it's adding to all kinds of other issues.
Well, that's an important way that we need to make these essential services, which many consider invisible because they work behind the scenes, but much more visible. And perhaps when we are faced with these serious serious shortages of goods for a holiday season, people will start to think more seriously about it. But I can also say, in a more positive note, before closing and before thanking all of the panelists, that there is an important development in the Asia-Pacific region I'd like to draw your attention to, and that is that APEC economies have actually acted this year to acknowledge the importance of the role of services in dealing with the health pandemic through adopting a statement on services to facilitate trade in essential goods. And this was part of the outcome of the ministerial declaration, APEC ministers responsible for trade at their meeting in June. So this declaration complements the one in the previous year in 2020, trade to facilitate movement of essential goods. And therefore now in the APEC region, these two are seen side by side, and essential services has been brought to the forefront in the same way as essential goods. And APEC will now be the one region which will craft an integrated and coherent response to the COVID pandemic that will include essential services. The group on services within APEC is going to carry out a nearly tier project that on essential services, so that much more attention will highlight these in order to identify, examine their role, and develop a coherent policy framework. And I hope that all of you will be very much a part of this process within APEC, since your knowledge is invaluable in this regard. So would anyone like to make a closing remark, 1 minute before we close the panel, and leave us with any closing thought?
Maybe I'll go first, since Doris spoke the previous time, but very quickly, you know, I hope the takeaway is, you know, people see what happens behind the scenes and realize that, you know, there are things we can put on paper, rules, protocols we can put in place, but it's really people that are doing these jobs, and we need to remember when we come up with these things to put ourselves in their shoes and think about whether that makes sense in terms of protecting them, but also, you know, whether it's something tolerable to be quarantined for a long period of time in another country, or you know, to have to wait for several hours in an uncomfortable location for a test result. It's, you know, all of these things you need to think about before we put things down on paper. So that's I think the one thing that I hope people will take away as we think about ways to keep services like this going. So thank you.
Thanks very much. Leonora?
I'd like to say that logistics is actually a people business. Yeah, it's as fundamental as that. So yes, we have to really take care of the people who work in this sector, the people who work for our companies. And I think once we get that right, I think trade will continue to flow as long as logistics services, is the engine behind it. Yeah.
Perfect. Doris?
Well, I'd like to thank the APEC Services Coalition for highlighting transportation, logistics, and shipping in particular, because as you said, it is really an invisible service. And the more that people understand what the service does for our lives and how the seafarers serve humanity, the more policies and regulations that come up will be with that appreciation and not and more compassionate as far as the view towards services like shipping and air cargo and courier services. We all expect it to be there. We want it to be there right now, and then we don't understand that it needs support. Thank you.
Thank you so much, all of you, for excellent contributions and for highlighting the human element and leaving us with the message that logistics is a people's business. Thank you.